In Chapter 3, we've been working with variables, that is, little spaces in memory that you give a name and they store a value that later on you can retrieve and use, and it may be changed, etc. Previously, we've only worked with method variables, that is, the little places in memory you give a name and store a value that can be used only within a single method. They're not used program-wide. Today, we're going to be working with a more broadly used type of variable called a parameter. When you call a method, if it needs more information to execute, then the information or value that is sent along with the method is called an argument. And what it is stored in is called a parameter. Now, those names may not be familiar to you, but you have been using them all along. In our very first exercise, the first thing Alice did was turn her head to face the camera. And the way we did that was we selected her head, and then we used the point at method. So if you drag over head point at, you can see that it's got the word target if you're in Java style. So it needs more information in order for her to point at something. It needs to know what you want her to point at. What is the target? So target is actually the parameter of this point at method. And we chose camera. Camera would be the argument. So the nomenclature is the information needed to perform the method is called an argument, and the space in memory where that argument is stored is called the parameter. Another method we used in that exercise was we had Alice Little say several things. So if we close her back up and have the whole object of Alice Little say, you can see in parentheses after it on the tile the word what. What is the parameter for the say statement? So you can't have a say statement without finding out more information, such as what does she want to say. So for the say statement, there's a parameter called what, and I'm going to give it the value here of hello. So those two are just two of the methods we have used so far that you've already dealt with parameters that pass arguments along with the method when you call them, so they have more information in order to behave correctly. We have also, when we taught the dragon to flap his wings, we've used methods that have more than one parameter. So we had each of the wings roll, if you'll remember, and the roll method, and move up, you'll see that has two different parameters, direction and amount. So if I tell Alice Little to roll, it's going to ask me first, what direction do you want her to move? If I say left, it's going to ask what amount is she moving. I can say a quarter turn. So parameters, there may be more than one per method. It just passes additional information that makes the method work correctly. And that additional information, the value of a parameter, is its argument. So if you hit play, she points at the camera, she says hello, and then she rolls a quarter turn to the left. All right, in this exercise, we are going to have a scarecrow who sings the song Old MacDonald, one line at a time. And they've got some lyrics on your book on page 81. So let's create a new world. And all we need is a scarecrow. So he would be in farm in your local gallery. And the only thing you have to have in this file is the scarecrow itself. If you want to add some background, a barn or a farmhouse, that's fine. Give him a stool, you can. But the only necessary part is the scarecrow, because he's going to sing the song. So once you have the world set up, this is going to be a thing that the scarecrow does. So it will be an object method belonging to him. Select the scarecrow and create a new method. And we're going to create a generic method for this. Instead of creating a method called sing verse 1 and then having 5 say statements where he says Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on this farm he had a cow, E-I-E-I-O, with the moo-moo here and a moo-moo there, here a moo, there a moo, everywhere a moo-moo. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, which would be 5 say statements, and then creating another method for sing verse 2 and another method for sing verse 3. We can look at this song and see that each of the verses are very, very similar. The only difference between the first verse and any other verse is what the name of the animal he's singing about in that verse is, and the noise that that animal makes. So we're going to create a generic method called sing verse, in which we add extra information, extra values needed to be sent along with the method, telling us which animal is to be sung about and what noise does it make. So let's just create a new object method called sing verse. And that makes it more versatile. It can be used many different ways. We have he can sing 100 different verses of this, and each time we just have to tell it what is the animal and what is the noise. We're going to build this piece by piece. Since we need to pass that information along as arguments, it needs to know that it is a cow saying moo or horse saying neigh. Then we need somewhere to store those, and since it needs to be sent with the method, we'll store those values in parameters. So create new parameter button is right above the create new variable button. Click that, and the first one will be animal. And you might note that it doesn't have a place for the initial value. When you created variables, you had the option of setting the value in the dialog box. For parameters, the value is never set until the method is called. When I call sing burst, it's going to ask me, okay, what is the animal? Each time I call it, I can give it a different animal, but the value is never set within the method itself. So we just have to give it a name and then say what type of data is going to be held in that little storage space. In this case, instead of number, which we've been using, this is going to be a string. We're going to be typing out the word cow or horse or duck. So click OK. And then the other little piece of information we'll need every time we tell the scarecrow to sing the verse is what is the noise that animal makes. So create a second parameter for this method, and we'll just call it noise. It is also a string, no initial value. We don't tell it to say moo or quack or whatever until we actually call the sing verse method. So just name noise type string. Click OK. All right, we could go ahead and start programming in now. And like I said, the first verse that he would sing is Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. On this farm he had a cow, E-I-E-I-O. With a moo-moo here and a moo-moo there, here a moo, there a moo, everywhere a moo-moo. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. What we're going to do is build this just like that. We're going to have the 5 say statements, but every time there's the word cow in the text of that first verse, we're going to substitute the parameter we created called animal. And every time there is a moo, we're going to substitute the parameter called noise. And that way it can be used generically and can be used over and over for different animals and different noises. So we use the same basic structure, but substitute in these parameters instead of the actual animal and noise that are in the song. Looking within each verse, you can see that there are also some additional repeated bits of code there, lines of say statement. Anytime you find yourself programming the same thing more than once, there's usually an easier way to do it. So programming is the art of completing everything you need to get done using the least amount of code possible. So if you look within that verse I just said, you'll realize that the first line of the verse and the fifth and final line of the verse is exactly the same. So instead of typing out that same line twice, what we're going to do is create a variable to hold it. Your book calls it first line. I'll call it repeated line. I think that's more accurate. But we'll just store that string in that variable, and then we just have the scarecrow say repeated line instead of having to type out Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, over and over again. So create a new variable. Make sure you click the variable button, and we'll call this repeated line. And again, we've got an initial value possible to be set here because it's a variable, not a parameter. It will be a string. We're going to leave the value as default string. We're going to set the value of repeated line in the code. You could do it here in the dialog box. We're going to follow the textbook. Click OK. And there is one other bit of the verse that is repeated multiple times throughout the verse, and that is starting on line 3 of the verse with a moo-moo here and a moo-moo there, and the next line is here a moo, there a moo, everywhere a moo-moo. So these moo-moos are actually 2 occurrences of the noise parameter we've created, joined together by a dash. So in order to build those, we would have the parameter called noise. We would use concatenation operator, that A plus B in world functions, to join it with the dash mark that we type. And then we'd use A plus B concatenation operator again to join that with the noise parameter. And that's pretty tedious. So instead of doing that over and over and over again, we can create a variable to hold that, do it one time, store it in a variable, and then we can just have the scarecrow say that variable. So that will save us time later. So let's create a second and final new variable for this method. We'll call it double noise. It is also a string, and again, we're going to set the value in the code, so leave the value as default string and click OK. All right, those are the 2 parameters, animal and noise, and 2 variables, repeated line and double noise. Go ahead and pull up Do in Order or ready for him to start singing. Before he can actually do that, before we can pull over the first say statement, we need to set the value for our two variables. So let's start with repeated line. Pull that down into your code. Choose set value and other. And we're going to type out that line that is repeated twice in the verse. Type out Old MacDonald had a farm. And they have a comma, and then E-I-E-I-O is all caps with dashes between the letters. So E-I-E-I-O, period. All right, that is now stored in a variable, and we can just have the scarecrow say repeated line instead of having to type all that out again. The other variable, like I said, is double noise. It is a mixture of concatenated parameter noise joined with the dash joined with the parameter noise. So let's set the value of that, and we'll build it piece by piece. Pull down double noise into the code, set the value to the first part of it, which is the expression noise. And again, the concatenation operator, how you join strings and variables or strings and parameters, is under world functions. In the fourth grouping down, you've got the string functions, A plus B, or if you're in Alice style, it'll be A joined with B. Drag and drop that A plus B to concatenate or add to noise. And we're going to be adding other and just type a dash. Click OK. All right, and then drag A plus B on top of the whole thing and add the third and final part of this statement, which is the parameter expression noise. So now the value of double noise is noise plus dash plus noise. So when we actually call this method the first time, it will have a value of moo dash moo. The next time would be quack dash quack, etc. All right, now that we've gotten all our variables set, it's time to just have the scarecrow start saying the song. It's 5 lines for the song. So switch to the scarecrow's methods and drag over a say statement. And again, each of these lines we're going to have part strings that you type and part the value of the parameters or the parameters or the variables. So we're going to be using that A plus B world function a lot. The first line of the song, however, we've already stored in a variable, so that one will be really easy. Just drag over scarecrow say as your third line of code, and he's just going to say the expression repeated line, which again, the value of that is Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. All right, and you want to stay on screen long enough to read it. So they've got it up there for 5 seconds. So the third line, scarecrow say, should have a duration of 5 seconds. All right, line 2 of the song, line 4 of your code, will be the scarecrow saying, and on this farm he had a, and then we're going to join that with the parameter animal, and then join that with a comma, E-I-E-I-O. All right, so 3 parts that we need to concatenate, join together. Start with scarecrow say, drag that over, and we type the first part. So choose other, and type out, and on this farm he had a, and then type a blank space so your words don't all run together. Click OK. Then go to world functions to find that A plus B operator. Drag A plus B on top of the first part of the statement you typed, and on this farm you had a, and we're going to add the next part of the sentence, which will be the expression animal. And then there's a third and final part we want to add, so drag A plus B over the whole statement, and let's add the string other, comma, space, E-I-E-I-O. Again, all caps, dashes between them. E-I-E-I-O, period. And click OK. So there's a 3-part statement here for line 2 of the song. And on this farm he had a, joined with animal, joined with E-I-E-I-O. If your spacing is off when you go to play this, when you test it, just remember any of the strings you typed you can click on and go back and add the space before the parameter or variable or after it, depending on where your words are running together. All right, so that's line 2 of the 5-line verse. Let's do line 3 of the song. So click Scarecrow, drag over Say statement. All right, this one's a little bit longer. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts, but it starts with a string. So have him say other and type with a, and then a blank space. Click OK. And then a whole bunch of these world functions, a plus b, is what we're going to use to join all these pieces together. So drag a plus b on top of with a, and we're going to be adding the expression double noise. So it'll be with a moo moo, etc. Next part of the line is a string that we'll type. So drag a plus b over the whole thing with a double noise. And we're going to add something we type, so choose other. And it will be comma, no, actually no comma, just blank space, the word here. Then comma, and then a blank space. All right, a plus b over the whole thing to keep adding. All right, and the next thing we're going to add is double noise again. It's expression double noise. And then we type the last final part of the statement. So a plus b one more time over the whole thing. The green bar should go all the way around the statement. And we'll type the last bit, which is other space there. And the book has got a comma. Click OK. So if you read it out, substituting for double noise, moo moo or quack quack or whatever it's going to be when you call the method, it will read with a moo moo here and a moo moo there. Right, and that is the third line of the 5-line verse. Is the next to longest one. The fourth one is the longest line. We'll have the most concatenations. So let's start out again with a Scarecrow say. Drag that over, and we'll be typing the first part of it. So choose other, and it starts with here a, and then put a blank space after the a. Click OK, and then we're going to be working with these world functions a plus b over and over. So drag a plus b on top of here a, and we're adding just noise this time, so expression noise. So it'll be here a moo, for example, or here a quack. All right, a plus b again over the whole thing. So the green bar goes around the whole thing. And we're going to type a bit, so choose other. And it will be comma, there, blank space. Click OK. Drag a plus b over the whole thing. This time we are adding noise, the expression noise. Two more things to add. So a plus b over the whole thing. Time to type, so choose other. Sorry about that. I have a dog in here. All right, we've got here a noise, there a noise, and now we're adding the string, comma, space, everywhere, a blank space. Click OK. And then the last part of the statement is the variable double noise. So pull over a plus b on top of the whole statement, the whole long one, and add the expression double noise. So if you read it out, substituting noise, making noise moo, for example, and double noise moo moo, it would read here a moo, there a moo, everywhere a moo moo. So that's the fourth line, which is the longest line, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts. And you build it piece by piece using that a plus b world function. All right, then the fifth and final line of the song verse is the same as the first one that we stored in that repeated line variable. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. So last line of this verse is Scarecrow say, and have him say the expression repeated line. All right, the only thing I didn't do, I forgot for all but the first line, is put a duration on there. And it looks like the book has first line of the song is 5-second duration. Line 2, which starts with, and on this farm he had a, is a 5-second duration. So add that in. Line 3 has got a 3-second duration. So with the double noise here has a duration of 3 seconds. And then the fourth one, the really long one, we're going to go back to, actually it says duration 3 seconds. So the very long, next to the last line of the verse is a duration of 3. And then the final line, Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, which is repeated line. They've got that 5 seconds again, which is technically shorter than the other ones, but we'll follow the book on this. So this is the code, your entire code for the sing verse method. We've got the value of repeated line, the value of double noise, scarecrow say repeated line, scarecrow say, and on this farm he had an animal, E-I-E-I-O. Then next line, scarecrow say with a double noise here and a double noise there. Fourth line is scarecrow say here a noise, there a noise, everywhere a double noise, and then finally scarecrow say repeated line. Alright, now we need to put this all together. We've got a generic verse, which is a method we can call over and over as many times as we want to, and each time we pass different arguments. We tell it a different animal name and a different noise that animal makes. Alright, so let's test it out. We're going to put this all together in a new method that we'll just call Sing Old MacDonald. So with the scarecrow selected, let's create a second new method for him called Sing Old MacDonald. Alright, and we're going to have him sing 4 verses, it looks like, from the book. So pull up a do in order. And then we're just going to pull over 4 sing verses, and each time we're going to say the name of the animal and the name of the noise. So each verse will be sung slightly differently. So pull over sing verse the first time, and you'll see just like before when I was showing you the Alice, it shows you the name of the parameter and then asks you the value. And Alice is kind of odd in that it doesn't really give you a lot of options here. I found it easier to just choose values of default string and then go in and manually change them after you've called your methods. So for animal, I'm going to put default string. It's going to say what is noise. I'm going to put default string. And then I'll go in and manually change it. The first verse, we want that to be a cow. Enter. And then click on default string for noise and type moo and enter. And then we're going to do the same thing for the next 3 verses. So pull over sing verse. Choose default string for the animal and default string for the noise, and then click on default string to change the animal to horse, enter, and the noise to neigh, N-E-I-G-H. Alright, third time, pull over sing verse, choose default string and default string, change the animal to duck, and the noise to quack. And then the fourth and final verse will drag over and choose default string and default string for our arguments, and then change them. The animal will be dog, and the noise it makes will be ruff, R-U-F-F. Okay, so we've got 4 verses of the song here. Each time when we tell it to sing Old MacDonald, it's going to sing verse with a cow and moo being the arguments passed. So everywhere the word animal is, the word cow will be substituted. Everywhere the word noise is, moo will be substituted. Then when it finishes that 5 lines of verse, it will move on to the second verse with a horse and neigh being the arguments. So everywhere you see noise, it will be neigh, and everywhere you see animal, it will be horse. All right, it's time to test this. Go to my first method and pull over a sing Old MacDonald tile, which is where we put it all together, and hit play. First line should appear for 5 seconds. Then it should have a cow in there with spaces around it. It shouldn't be crammed into the other letters. The noises should be joined by a dash and spaced correctly. And then ends with Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-O. Should immediately start with the horse next. And sometimes you can't tell that it started again because the last line is the same as the first. Don't worry about it. As long as it continues and says the horse and the nay here and all that, then you've done it correctly. And I'll be looking at your code, not so much your display. If your text is too large, you can resize your window. You can move your scarecrow back a little bit if you want to, rotate him. But as long as your code is correct and matches the book on page 83, you're good. Spin through, make sure it plays the whole way through. Fourth one, he had a dog. Okay, save this file as your last name, first initial, underscore MacDonald, and upload it to Moodle.